Three good things. Who's got something good? Something great, something over the top. That much, eh? Come on, somebody's got something good.
I moved to Del Mar.
That's good. You sold your house.
Sold the house.
And you did all right on it.
I did okay. I didn't do what I wanted to. Had bad appraisal, but it was still good in the end. And the school over there is just insane. I didn't even know. We stumbled upon like the best school in the state. One of them.
Oh, really? In Del Mar. Good for
Yeah,
you.
Del Mar Heights Elementary. For elementary kids.
We're excited to see more of you.
I'm gonna be here, man. I live 2 minutes away now.
Good. Good.
I'm pumped.
Cool. What else? Who else has something exciting?
Starting to go dinner.
Nothing. How's Ignite going? What are y'all finding in Ignite? All right. Do we need to do jumping jacks to get everybody excited to talk about something? I'm trying to warm them up for you. I'm not doing so good, man.
It's all right.
No, really. Come on. How's Ignite going? Give me your feedback.
Going well. We had a good lesson on mindset today.
So what'd you learn?
Gosh, just it's a lot of us. We run from our negatives and whatnot, and you just kind of got to figure out what it is that is your motivator. When you can find that driving force, you can use it to your advantage, leverage it.
So Ryan, that was just that was masterminds, not a
Brad taught negotiating the deal.
Okay.
I didn't tell you last night we did the Petco Park tour last night.
Oh, yeah.
They had these signs as you walk down the hallway towards the dugout, and they were just mindset quotes and things like that. So we just talked about it.
Oh, that's
How
cool.
much was that last night?
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
So tell them what last night was.
Well, so at the Christmas party last year, we auctioned off a behind-the-scenes tour of Petco Park, which with a good friend of mine, Darren Balls, is the Padres pitching coach. So we were in the dugout, we were in the locker room, the training room, manager's room, locker up. I mean, we had the run of the place last night. It's cool. There was nobody there. Darren gave a tour. Anne Marie's boys were there last night. Her son's a really good player and was just in awe. You can imagine. Is he
Chills. He's like standing on the pitcher's mound in Petco Park at night by himself. Like, it was just.
So they had this thing that had this bowl of wax. It's like this, and it's almost like a crock pot of wax. And the guys put their hands in there because it's hot wax. So they put their hands in there to warm it up and just to get some of the kinks out. So Darren says, hey, who wants to do this? So Mindy's son goes up, and he's just this little guy. And Darren goes, all right, it's going to be a little hot. Stick your hand in there, and then we're going to do it twice. So at the end, he's got this little glove on his hand of wax, and he's walking around, I mean, literally for like 30 minutes afterwards like this. And I bet, Mindy, did something? Oh, okay, he took it off by the time they got to the car, but I mean, it was just, it's so cool to watch these boys at the ballpark like that. And we'll probably do something like that again. We auctioned it off for KW Cares and raise some money for people in the audience that need some help. So we'll probably do that again
Cool.
next year. What you thought right now
Right on.
is baseball.
Who else has something good? Ms. Quirch?
Our Interfaith Shelter Network annual gala, and we raised about $30,000, which is $10,000 more than last year, so making progress.
Good for you. Congratulations. That's awesome. Way to work on something that matters. That's cool.
I have to share this.
Bring it up. There you go. See, we just needed you to break the silence. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody wants to talk about their open escrows, which are great, but talk about some cool stuff
No,
too.
that's not
Yeah.
good.
Some cool stuff.
All right, Bev, what do you got?
Okay, so on Thursday I got an offer on a property, but I couldn't accept it because it was FHA. And I was so upset. I said, I'm not going to get a buy. I've got 12 offers on my listing, and I'm opening a cash offer to anyone day that's no listing.
Yeah, I love it. Good for you. Good job. What else? Who else has something? Anybody else? All right, I got one for you. What's that?
A number.
What's it mean?
More than 4, less
Wait,
than 6.
hang on. Somebody said it. I heard it. 5. What's 5 days?
the offers we write, then we get paid on it.
Okay? So what happens in 5 days?
Fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter, which means what for real estate?
We meet for the lease that we can close in this.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. 2016 and your opportunity to generate business and finish strong ends in 5 days. Which means what starts in 6 days?
New Year's.
2017. Seriously, 2017 starts in 6 days. Y'all don't realize that. Your real estate year is 3 months off of the regular year. If this is your first year in real estate or first year with this office, we start talking about this every single year, this time of year. Why do we talk about that the year ends on October 1st and not on January 1st?
That's how long it takes for leads to come through and like anything to happen.
Okay, so I love it that you said that because that's the exact perfect answer. And to plus it just a little bit, that's how long it predictably takes. Because is it possible to meet somebody on December 10th and they close December 15th?
Yes.
Right? But we don't want to write a business plan based on that. So for business planning, y'all seriously, you got 5 days left for 2016. So what I'll tell you is this, is if you really put it in escrow anytime after November 1st and it closes this year, that's called a gift. That's not called predictable. So what we want to start to do is condition you that what you do now shows up when? 90 days from now. So starting October 1, what day are you really working on? January 1, right? So starting this Saturday, it's real estate New Year's, not Chinese New Year's. Real estate New Year's. Chinese New Year every year is the same time as family reunion, and we always try to order stuff for family reunion, like badges and things, and we always get messed up by that. So we need somebody to help us remember that. But it's real estate New Year, which means that when everybody else in the fourth quarter is, what's the habitual traditional thing that happens in the fourth quarter?
People think it slows down, everyone's busy with the holidays.
Slows down, people get busy with the holidays, that's a great time for vacation. This is when I do my business planning. So what's the reality of the fourth quarter? How many,
Crank it out for next year.
this is the time to turn the heat up because everybody else is asleep, right? How many homes will sell between now and the end of the year?
6,000.
Who thinks it's more than 6?
Doesn't it drop to 2 like in December and?
Probably not this year,
No?
but we'll
I'm trying to
see.
remember last year's stat.
Last year was about 2,500 in December.
2,500.
So we'll see somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 homes sell between now and the end of the year. Now, if I can count real quick, there's not 10,000 agents in here, so there's enough for each of you to get at least one, maybe even one a month, right? And just understand, so what are like 2 or 3 things that you could do between now and the end of the year that would really set you up for success in the new year? Anne Marie?
Bold.
Oh. All right, bold. What else?
Quantum leap. Yes.
Quantum leap. Okay. What else?
We'll stop working.
Yeah, you could not stop working. It's a simple one. Anne Marie, what else?
Getting a coach.
You could get a coach. Look,
Mortgage.
you could use movement mortgage. I like that. It's a little bit self-serving, but we'll let it fly. Look, it's this. It's getting clear on what you want 2017 to look like. It's having the goal in mind, pasted on your wall, shared with your spouse, shared with your friends, shared with your family, so that once you've told so many people about it, that if it doesn't happen, you're just going to look like a fool. I'm serious. It's burning the boat so that everybody around you knows what your goals are so that you can go for it.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Last night was just really incredible at this Padres thing. And my 14-year-old took a picture of this one sign that was on the hallway that all the players would pass by and see, and it said, average players want to be left alone. Good players want to be coached, and great players want to be told the truth. And I think, like going to things like Bold and Quantum Leap, you're going to be told the truth.
You'll
Anyway,
find
it was
the
really
truth.
effective. He just stood there and looked at that. And he was like, wow.
That's pretty cool. So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do, is to take this take the next 30 days and really think about what do you want out of your business, out of your career, out of your life in 2017, and then share it with the people that matter to you. And they will hold you accountable. I mean, our house is like dream board city right now. That's what we've been working on for a week, because we got to start to figure that stuff out so that coming into the fourth quarter, we've got a clear path forward. And so I really encourage you all to start thinking about that. We'll be doing business planning clinics and all those things through October. And when you come to those with a number in mind, with thoughts in mind about what you want to do, it's going to make it easier, better, faster. Sound good? But it's kind of fun to think about what's possible too, right? All right, movement tip, what do y'all got?
If you guys watch the news, you'll know that the Feds decided to leave the rates alone. So with that, rates dropped again. So we're back down to the historic lows. Now, JT said your business planning starts now. If you guys do get a contract in December, we'll close it, you know, upwards of 2 weeks, 3 weeks. None of us are going to be on vacation in December, right? So you guys know that we underwrite quick. And if you come to us with a contract like the 10th or the 12th of December, as a gift to you guys, we'll still close it, right? Because he said if you guys close anything that you get in December, that's just going to be a gift.
It is.
But that's really our specialty. And then, you know, we still find these deals falling out, and the main thread, the common thread with all of them is the underwriters are finding something from these competitor banks. They're finding something that should have been discovered well in advance, like right up front. So we continue to do our 6-hour underwriting right up front before you guys are in a contract. We're ironing out all the details so that you don't run into it when you actually find the contract. Anything else?
Hang on, I want to ask something to that.
Yeah.
I had somebody call me last week, and they go, Jeremiah, I don't know what to do. My deal's blowing up. I go, what happened? They go, well, they found out the borrower doesn't have a job. Okay, when was this supposed to close? Friday? They called me last Tuesday, and they go, Friday? And I went, who's the lender? And I'm not going to repeat who it was, because I don't remember. If I did, I would totally tell you.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah. Pick whoever you don't
Wells
like.
Fargo, B of A, Citibank.
It wasn't. It was an independent broker, and I went, hang on a minute. How long has this escrow been open? 45 days. I said, it took him 45 days to figure out the buyer doesn't have a job. Did they just get fired? No, he's been the same. Been on disability or something for 18 months, and he's been looking, and he told the lender he was going to get a job before it closed, but then the job he got was commission, so it didn't work. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Not even I can fix that. But I said, I know what you can do. Write him the check to buy the house and hope he pays you back. And they're like, no.
Well, you know, the cool story is a brand new agent in here, Rocco. He had his first deal, right? And it was a tricky one. His client already had a VA loan currently in San Diego, and his client wanted to buy a new residence. And I was like, well, we'll have to put it together. So we did it. We put it in front of the underwriter. Underwriter came back and said, no, you can't buy exactly what you want. So we worked with them, and the underwriter said, okay, they can buy this much, but that's the max. And so then he just went into contract. So a real tricky deal. You know, it spent like, what, 2 or 3 days in underwriting, and we got it fully approved so that when he writes a contract, he knows, you know, as long as the property appraises, then we're as good as gold. So it's just a tool, you guys. You've got 3 of us here. Just, you know, if you've got any questions, you got a file, you want an underwriter to look at it right up front, just give it to us, and we'll do our magic. So, cool.
Thank you. Brad, you got a broker tip?
So I've talked about this before, but it just always is the same. Communication. If you guys have communication up front with your clients, explain the process to them, whether they're a buyer or seller. When those challenges come up, then remember when we talked in our initial consultation, we mentioned that this might occur. It's just such an easier conversation. You become more referable during the experience, and you become more solution oriented and solution based. So just realize that you guys need to really do a lot of communicating up front about what the process is going to be like, and communicating all the way through so that you can get to the end of the table. That's where the conflict happens. That's where, from a broker perspective, where I get people over my desk, because there's a breakdown in communication, people are upset, and they all want to sue each other. So just communicate.
Does that mean like calling agents back when you leave them messages?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, and to that email Chris sent us, and I saw something on Facebook that reminded me of that over the weekend. Behave yourself when you're showing property, and make sure that you're keeping your buyers together when you're showing property. We're finding that many sellers have cameras in their homes. So think about that as you're going through the home. The agent on Facebook this week it was Morgan Smith in Austin. Seller, it's not her seller, she's showing the house. Seller texts her while they're showing the house and says, "We have a no shoes rule in our house and your buyer has his shoes on." Now that's freaky. And it got even worse because she said, well, she tried to get him off that. She said, well, the buyer thinks the yard doesn't like the yard. And now she's in this long conversation with somebody who's not her client. So just follow the showing instructions. Know that there's a really high likelihood that there are cameras in the house. It's just the society we live in, and people.
Yeah.
There's one in the street.
Look, it's just like when you reinforce it. I went to the Apple store this weekend because my laptop died, and the guy's like, "Are you comfortable giving us your password?" And I'm like, "You can have it." I'm like, "Do people really freak out about that?" He goes, "Oh, well, you wouldn't believe it." Like, just understand, in the day and age that we live in, you hold a professional license. If you're doing something that you wouldn't be proud of to be put on display on national TV, probably a good idea not to do that. Just so you know. Because if it does become a licensing complaint, it becomes public record, it follows you forever. There's no getting rid of it. So just let's use some common sense. Sharon.
Bringing that up is a good point. There was a realtor in Texas who was on the news making her opinion known, and it was like, it's just not something you do in politics when you're a realtor. And then she had to go on and apologize afterwards.
And look, there are realtors all over the country that have taken sides in this political debate that we're in that have gotten lots of press over it. Look, there's no right or wrong. We're not going to tell you what to do, who to vote for, anything else. Just be conscientious of the way that you choose to take a stand over things, right? That's all. I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Jude, you got anything?
I do. Something super very important for your award purposes for recognizing you for your production this year. We need to know if you joined us this year, your prior production with your company before, your GCI and your unit. So if you joined us this year and you had great production, or any production, send it to me so that we can add that to your production. Also, if you are on a team or a group, please make sure we have all of your members' names, their role in your group, and also their production that they did with you. We just want to make sure you're recognized correctly for your achievements this year. So we'll be reaching out to all of you this week, so I wanted to make that announcement so you guys can get your stuff together before.
Yeah, cool. You want to head on up here and start getting mic'd up, and I'll finish up while you do that.
Sure.
Last couple housekeeping things. I think most of you know that we have a couple of positions on staff. Come on up, you're good. Your mic's right here. We have a couple of positions on staff we're looking to fill, so if you know anybody that you think should be considered for office staff, give your resumes to myself, Jude, Danielle. We'll get them interviewed, and we're really excited. We've got probably 30, 40 candidates that we're already talking to, and we've got a killer opportunity to really go to the next level as an organization. So, second is feedback. You can put that thing on. Go ahead.
Never used this before.
It's just sort of to record so the people aren't here can hear you.
Right on. All right.
So, feedback. How many of you got the text message I sent last night that ended up coming at 6:15 a.m.? You're welcome. You should have been up anyways. And then did you get the email? Who got the email?
This week's email?
Yeah, wow, this is why I'm asking. So, how could we more effectively communicate those things? I built a little single property website that says this week at KWCD that has some key things. Does that help, or is that a waste of time? Helps?
It just got weird in here.
No, I found it helpful. I thought it was really helpful.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
It's helpful, but the links aren't coming through as clickable.
On the website? Okay, I'll talk to the web development guy about that. This is what happens when you get a sales guy building a website.
The property site should be pretty easy to.
Yeah. And I had to do it on an iPad mini. Do I get any points for that?
Yeah.
So, all right, text message, is that helpful? To kind of know the key one or two things? What's the one thing you wish we would do to highlight classes and keep get them in front of you?
I just like them on the calendar. I don't really, you know, if I have a place I can go, I look at my calendar all day, every day, and I have like 4 or 5 or 6 different calendars on there. So as long as it's on there, I'm good.
So the
because then I can
Google, the
pick what I
Google
want.
calendar that pushes to your phone with our, okay.
And I can copy it to my calendar if I really like it, and it'll turn to my color. You know?
How many of you know that we push our calendar out via Google Calendar that you can just sync it right on your phone? Okay, for the 4 of you that use that, that's this is why I'm asking, right? Like, we're trying to manage 400 individuals that are all on different schedules and let them know what's important. There's some challenges involved. What else do y'all find that's useful? Who still uses the paper calendar? All right, for the 6 of you and 3 of them being on staff.
Might be a shocker that I did.
Yeah. So I do know there's a mismatch on those. What were you saying?
I like the calendar that you have on the dashboard, because if you want to sign up for something, just click on it, just like it up.
Okay, so the calendar on the dashboard, is that the Google Calendar, the KW Connect calendar, or the KW Intranet calendar?
I know, this is the problem, too, you've got 3, and it was the one that was the sign, and I don't even remember what I signed up for, but I remember they said, go to that calendar, and there's a link to sign up. So I'm gonna assume it's the intranet.
Probably, if you can sign up on it. that'd be
Is it,
good.
so how do you get there? Do you go to the bottom to MC662, and that takes you there?
It's confusing to find a good calendar.
Unless you have several offices, then you gotta find the right number.
No, it is. I think I played around with it for like 3 or 4 minutes until I could finally find
The right place.
thing, yeah.
You know what would be helpful is having a link that says calendar.
Too easy. Yeah, isn't it, you know, it's interesting, right? So what can we learn from this as agents?
Keep it simple.
Right? Keep it simple, but like, we all generally know the structure of the classes. We know team meetings are on Monday, Ignites in the morning. If there's big events, I'll get 94 emails about it and 8 flyers. We generally know what it feels like, and yet how much confusion is there around it? I think there's quite a bit, really. So if we know what it's supposed to be like and it's confusing, imagine what your clients think, right? When you're trying to take them through a transaction and the timelines and all that. So, all right, thank you all for your feedback. We will continue to work on this and improve. And I give you the Stephen Jack. Now, do you all know, do you know how I met Stephen Jack for the first time? He barely remembers. Yeah, it was at dance
Yeah,
class.
exactly. Thank you.
It's scary how accurate that almost is. So to become a Bold coach, you have to go to Austin and audition in front of all the coaches and Diana Kokoska. So I'm sitting there, and I'm not nervous at all because it's just the CEO of the company and like all the other Bold coaches watching. And I had been up, they keep you up until like 10 o'clock at dinner with
Yep.
Diana, then they send you home with 2 hours of
Oh
homework.
yeah, at least.
About 2 hours worth of homework, and then they say, and by the way, we need you ready because we'll be going on a morning run at 5 a.m. And you need to project. And so that you're sitting there, you're projecting, you're talking super loud for like 10 hours. Then you go home, you do it for 2 more, you sleep for 2 hours, and you get up, you get on the bus, put your suit on, you come back. So it's like 8 in the morning, and you're sitting there and you're presenting and being enthusiastic, and in comes Stephen Jack on his cell phone. Hello? Yeah, yeah. And like interrupts right in the middle of the whole thing. He was planted by Diana to come in.
I wasn't just that rude, right? You know.
He was planted by Diana to come in and interrupt one of the most seasoned Bold coaches that was in the program, and we ended up going out of order. So I was the one that was presented while he came in to interrupt. I'm like, who's this guy? Do I throw a marker at it? What do I do?
I know. And I got to give you kudos though, because you were incredibly charming. The whole thing just kind of like, hey, just really smooth. So and just presenter tone. I love the way you handled it, by the way.
So you did talk to him about it?
No, I just walked over and I put my hand on his face.
Yeah,
like this.
just like this.
No, but, and then when I found out you were coming here, I was like, revenge.
All right, cool. So thank you everybody for being here. So essentially what we're going to be talking about today is selling value, right? So as we go into this final quarter, it's really going to come down to really going out with a bang, setting our new year up for excellence, right? So a lot of it is coming down to value. How we net more, right? People are asking us, okay, well, how are you able to get more per transaction? Aside from the loyalty and aside from selling the value that we have, there is, in fact, a certain technique that is used to do so. For an example, right now, how do you demonstrate your value to someone who may not know you yet, right? Who wants to get to know you? How do you sell your value? Brute force? Shove it down their throat? We're smiling, but guess what? It actually happens that way a lot of times. More often than not. Are you calling me right now? Yeah. More often than not, we go into this mode where we want to be able to get as much information down this person's throat as quickly as possible, right? Whether it's over the phone, whether it's in front of them. Hey, let me tell you about what I can do to get your home sold in less time for more money. And this is what we do. We have all the technology available, and you're literally bombarding them with all of this information. We go into telling mode, okay? What would be the difference if you could demonstrate your value by not shoving it down their throat? Rather, you would elicit their curiosity. Would that be helpful? Much better. Much better. Oh yeah, because rather than just telling them, I do X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, and I'm going to give you the same spiel that an ungodly amount of other realtors have told you as well, right? You can actually engage them to have them asking you, oh, okay, and actually creating a connection from their heart, right? Because people don't want to be sold, do they? No. No. All right, they want to have that kind of connection. And you can create and we actually have a little formula that we utilize. It's incredibly easy, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Essentially what you want to do, ask questions. That's not going to blow your mind away, yet see how it all plays in. You're asking questions. You're getting insight into their mind. What is it going to take for them to see you as valuable? What are they looking for? Is it a time frame, right? That's where anybody that's taken language of sales, that's where it incorporates into it deeper. When you ask a question, you dig a little bit deeper. What would that mean to you? What would that do for you, right? Now make sure you're listening because you're going to utilize this information against them. Okay, what are some other questions that you guys use to see where that person is? To kind of gauge their motivation, so to speak. What kind of questions do you guys use?
Open-ended.
What's that?
Open-ended.
Open-ended, absolutely.
Yes or no.
Okay, absolutely. So what would that look like? Like an open-ended question. What would be a good example? Exactly, exactly. Have them start describing. What are you looking for? What else?
Where are you moving to?
Exactly. Where are you moving to? What else?
When to be there.
When do you need to be there, right?
What do you like best?
What do you like best? Absolutely. And see, this is what's so cool about it because they're sharing with you what it's going to take in order to provide them value, okay? Because you take this information, all right, and you gather it, asking them all the questions. When you have at least 2 to 3 pieces of information, you then turn it around and pace and lead them. You get them into a yes pattern. Is anybody familiar with pacing and leading? Essentially, so we're going to kind of go back into it. What that means is that I want to get you into a yes pattern. Because eventually I'm going to tie you down into the appointment or tie you down into signing the contract, right? I want to get you into that yes pattern before doing so. So you take all of that information. So what I'm understanding is that you're looking to be in San Marcos, correct?
Correct.
You're looking to be there for the school district?
Yes.
Okay, in roughly about 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay, well, would it be helpful if I could show you how we can get you there? Would that be worth 15 minutes of your time?
Yeah.
Great. We're in this yes pattern. I don't have to go into, I'm going to utilize all this technology. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Because then they're already committing to you without necessarily knowing what they're committing to. But what you're doing in essence is gaining that commitment. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want that. And all you're asking is when I can demonstrate to you what I can do to get you X, Y, and Z, would that be worth 15 minutes of your time? Would that be helpful to you? At any point in time, did I say, I'd like to set an appointment with you? I'd like to come over here. I'd like to do this. Do they care about what you want? No. They don't know you yet. They don't know you yet. And see, that's something that is so interesting is that we come across so often as saying, well, I'd like to set an appointment. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. The difference is utilizing that, asking the questions, pacing and leading that will come first, rehashing that information, tying them down. Now, it's not the same tie down that you would as, doesn't that make sense? It's a different tie down in the sense of, would that be worth 15 minutes of your time? Would that be helpful? Technically not asking a question, I'm still demanding. Would that be helpful? Would that be worth 15 minutes of your time, right? We're coming from contribution. That's the biggest difference. And so what this really does is that this creates the loyalty, right? How many times have we been, I can't think of an eloquent word for this, when a person just ups and leaves you and surprises you?
Abandoned?
Sure, yeah, let's say that. I mean, it's like, have we experienced that? I'm the only one. Fair enough, all right, thank you, Tom. You know, it's just like, but I mean, let's be honest, right? I can't expect any differently because they don't know what's my purpose. They don't know the team's purpose. They don't know what kind of value you provide. But here's the thing. When you tie it back into get them into curiosity, get them wanting to know more about what you're wanting to do for them. That's where the key difference is. Like I said, this is not rocket science. It's a very, very simple formula. Practice it over and over again. Look at your scripts. What are your scripts saying? Take the meat and see with the delivery points or any action items, how can you turn that into a form of a question? That's where you're going to elicit the curiosity from people, because then all of a sudden it becomes a conversation, right? It's no longer you just telling them what you do. You know, let me tell you about the same thing, right? Everybody's heard the exact same thing, and I'm not bashing it. It's just that this is something that we know going back with working with top agents, top teams, all right, Gary's top 100, a lot of them admit to doing this, where they want to get all this information, just cram it down the throat as quickly as possible, you know, and that's just, it is what it is. But if you want to talk about the client loyalty to you, and also, if you want to get it to where they're not asking you to negotiate your commissions, would that be nice? You know, because whenever someone's wanting you to discount their commission, what is it coming down to? Is it because they think that you're crappy, or because they want to get a good deal? Or both?
They don't see the value.
Right, exactly. If they don't see the value, so that's going to be a natural way to go into it. Okay, well, this other realtor said that they would do it for 5% or something or the other. You know, you can then go into that objection handler, but you don't have that opportunity unless you get them talking, right? When you're just going straight down their throat, when you're projecting at them, do you think they want to engage in a conversation? No. No, and I mean, and that's okay, because we go on defense. We're the same way. Salespeople are tricky to sell. You know, nobody's any different. So, once again, just kind of reiterating this, asking the questions. What kind of questions can you ask? Okay, and refraining from wanting to tell them everything, because I'm sure you provide a lot of value. I am sure you have so much information you just want to share with them. Great. Have them ask you. Have them curious about what that's going to mean to them, right? Because it's also going to save you time. Rather than spewing out all this information about technology, right? I can go into what we do to advertise on social media. I can go into how we track the people that click on the social media advertisements. I could go into that. But then again, we have some other people that are adamantly against any internet advertising. They say, well, you know what? We want the classic approach. You know, we would have known that had we not asked questions. What would it take in order to demonstrate our value to you? Well, what do you mean? Okay, well, 3 months from now, right, when we are inevitably done, this is all behind you, what would it take in order for you to look back upon this all and say, wow, that was an amazing experience? Tell me what that would mean for you. Well, it would mean this, this, and that. Great, so how can we get to that point? Well, this is essentially what I'm looking for, right? I didn't have to tell you anything. I'm just gathering all the information. Simply by future pacing you, if we want to be tricky in here, right? 3 months from now, or a certain period of time from now, when this is all behind us and you're looking back on this, what would it take for us to say, wow, that was a fill-in-the-blank experience. That was an amazing experience. That was professional. I loved it. That was efficient. That's where you can slowly incorporate your value pieces, right? So if you feel that your marketing presentation is, just different, utilize technology, professional, polished, insert those words. What would it take for you to look back and say, wow, that was efficient. Wow, that was friendly. Wow, that was fill in the blank, right? Is this making sense?
Yes.
What are you taking away from that so far?
More important than anything else is listening and give them a helping hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely, right? And so anybody that's heard me speak before knows that we're always big on coming from contribution. I mean, you're here in Keller Williams because you come from contribution. All right? It's very likely that you came on at least because of the culture, or at least you're familiar with it. We're coming from contribution, and that is what, in fact, sets us aside from so many other people. If you see people with dollar signs on their head, they're going to see right through that. Versus you asking them questions and seeing what is it going to take in order for you to actually provide that value, but have them curious about it. Thank you. So what else are you taking away?
You have to be flexible in approach.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a one-trick pony, it's going to be really tough to do what you're saying to do. Because if somebody says social media, you got to be able to go that way. If they say, well, I want to advertise in the newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
you have to know how to address it.
Exactly.
And that means doing the hard work called practice.
Right, right. And I mean, so with that flexibility, because, can we all agree that there are different personalities? I mean, my gosh, with, Keller Williams, we have the KPA, there used to be the AVA, DISC assessment, people find, or all of these different assessments, right? Can anybody in this room say that there is only one particular unique personality style? No, no. So in addition, so now knowing that there are different personality styles, how else does it benefit you to ask more questions? What else would that give you insight into?
Get to know the objective.
Yeah,
Help them easier.
absolutely. Do you think that by the way that they answer your questions, that gives you more insight to where if they're a DIS or C?
You make it more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, how helpful would that be if, let's just assume, that you go into that telling mode again? You got your spiel planned out, and man, you're going to nail it. You know exactly what to say. Guess what? This person was a high C personality. You knew nothing. You addressed nothing of what they're looking for. Rapport broken. Right? Or if you're maybe that SC personality and you're really impactful because the things that you do, right, on a day-to-day basis, your day starts off with every single morning, you're calling your database and you're bringing them down into this level. Guess what? Your seller or your buyer is a D personality and you just lost them. By creating that kind of flexibility that Jeremiah is talking about, simply by asking questions, and it seems like such a novel idea, yet we don't do it enough. We don't practice that enough.
So I think we hear a lot of asking questions, right?
Yeah?
So what suggestions?
I cannot lean on this.
What's that?
I cannot lean on this. Sorry, asking questions.
So what advice would you give? Because when I talk to agents a lot, and we'll role play situations, they're like, how'd you get so good at that? And I'm like, I'm just having a conversation with you. So how would you teach them how to have questions? Is it practicing questions? Is
Sure.
it a way of thinking?
I'd say that a lot of it is a way of thinking. Is anybody familiar with chunking up or chunking down from an NLP standpoint? I can share it we got time. Yeah. Okay. So chunking up or chunking down, something to assist in your everyday life is that if I were to say cars, if I were to chunk down, I would say wheels, engine, lug nuts, right? These are parts to the car. If you were to say car and someone says chunk up, I would say transportation, right? So essentially what you'd want to do, I'm giving this foundation to get into the exercise, right, is that to chunk up, you're saying, what is this an example of? To chunk down, you want to say, what specifically? Okay? So essentially, how to practice with chunking up, chunking down, and getting you into the question mode is that I promise you, especially with conflict, you are chunked down, way, way down. In most conversations in which there is disagreement, you're chunked down. I assure you, nothing gets done when both people are chunked down so low. Well, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You said this because, and you only said this and that pissed me off because when you said this, that made me feel this way. Well, that's not exactly what I said. That's not what I meant by saying this, right? Or you get into a disagreement because it's kind of like, well, you said that you discount your commission. Well, I didn't say that. Well, I said this. Well, you said this, right? Versus if you're down here, chunk up. All right? Well, I understand that that's what came across. My intentions were this, right? So whenever you're in the middle of a conversation and you want to bring someone up to agreement, chunk them up. It is really, really hard to disagree or to have misalignment when you're so chunked up because you keep on asking for what purpose, for what purpose, for what purpose, right? If you chunk someone up high enough from a conversation, whether what are you looking to do, where are you looking to be, and you can't get agreement on this level, chunk them up, I promise you, then you can. Because you keep on going for what higher purpose, right? Well, we want this, this, and that. Okay, what would that mean for you? Well, because this, this, and that. Okay, so, what's that an example of? Well, because this, this, and that. For what purpose? Well, because essentially we want to have a family environment because we didn't have that as kids. Whew, wow, okay. But guess what they just did? They took their heart and they just did this to you. Do you think you can connect with that? Mm-hmm. You could, yeah. Right? So when you're chunking up, that's how you get into universal agreement. For what purpose, for what purpose, for what purpose. You cannot argue with that. When they're on this level, you can't. So how to get into that rhythm is start asking yourself, when I'm in a conversation, where am I? Are we really chunked down into this? How can I chunk this up? How can I get out of this, right? And essentially what you're wanting to do is always knowing that your interpretation is probably different than theirs. What's the only way to understand their interpretation of a circumstance, event, situation? What are some good questions to ask? Yeah, tell me more.
Help me understand.
Help me understand. Love that one. Help me understand what this means to you. Help me understand what you mean by this, right?
I would say thank you for all the information that you gave me. I think the way we connect is that we're going to make sure that we're thinking in the future in order for the present to take effect.
Okay. So so what kind of question would you ask them before going into, because you clearly made a connection at that point, yeah. Right? I see where you're coming from. What kind of questions would you ask before that point to get their insight, to see where they are?
More important than anything else, to generalize it, like what is your main objective?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, what's your main objective? What are you looking to do? When this is all said and done with, what are you looking to have accomplished, right? Chunking up, what would you like to have accomplished? Well, this. And then if they want to, they can chunk you down. Well, can you tell me more about this, right? Well, what about the commission splits, right? Notice it's actually in the script. Chunking up and chunking down are in our scripts. When a person is talking about the commissions, you then say, what I'm understanding you saying is that you're looking for a good value, right? You chunk them back up because you can either talk about your commissions and start going down. Well, I do a lot of things differently than other real estate agents. And I mean, if they're willing to do that with their money, what are they willing to do with yours? You can go into that, or you can say, well, what I hear you saying is that you're looking to get a good value, correct? Because then what are you able to do? You then take them in a different direction. Yes, ma'am.
You can also, I've done this before, you ask them why they feel that way.
Exactly.
Because then they give you their heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a really powerful way, if not saying why, especially with the complicated questions, because why is kind of a cumbersome question that a lot of people, they can give you a very superficial response, right? A different way is, what led you to believe that?
I like that better.
What leads you to that conclusion, right? Because a lot of times that's a very reflexive question. I mean, we did it as kids, well, can you clean your room? Why? Because I said so. Why? It's very reflexive to us, and so there's a few semantics in our language that just have that reflexive response that don't hold much weight, right? Why is a good question, especially when you're like, yeah, well, tell me more about that, when you're asking why. A different way to do that is what led you to that conclusion? What has you believing that? Does that make sense? Yeah, so thank you. All right, what else are you guys picking up from this?
So is a lot of this NLP stuff, like chunk up, chunk down, is that NLP?
Chunking up and chunking down is very NLP specific, yes.
So NLP class would be cool to take. We having one here sometime soon?
It's called Language of Sales. It's a fast track by MAPS, and I think there's one that starts soon.
Pretty soon.
All right.
Yeah, so group coaching, a lot of this is covered, right? There are a lot of language patterns that are utilized. Also, and if you guys, for Language of Sales, if you have taken Language of Sales and you want to take something in addition, I can talk to, is a certain course, not Keller Williams related though, but with the Empowerment Partnership, It's specifically an NLP course that comes through, and it's like a weekend course, and it's very reasonably priced. It's a lot of fun, actually, but it gives you a lot of the details behind language of sales. So if you're thirsty for that knowledge and you want to know, what is the meaning behind this? How was the language of sales developed? A lot of elements in bold as well. If you have that very inquisitive mind, then I can share that with Jeremiah and,